The Chazon Ish says as follows in section 1 of chapter 3. Halachic rulings sometimes have ramification in the realm of morals, and it is the halacha that sometimes in effect sets moral standards. In so many words, sometimes we need the halacha to teach us what is the right ethical behavior somewhere. And of course, he's going to give us an example this rest of the shiur is going to be based on. For instance, in the Gemara Masechet Bava Batra, page 21b, it says that when it comes to school teachers, of course, referring to Torah school teachers, there can be no claim of infringement on one's livelihood. En ta'ana shel pasakta lechayuti. What is this pasakta lechayuti? What is this infringement on one's livelihood? If there are teachers working in a certain city, and suddenly other teachers come from another place and start teaching there, it is the nature of people not to be satisfied with the old and familiar. And everyone starts sending their children to the newcomers, impinging on the livelihood of the local teachers. In so many words, there is a business. A business. In this particular case, he's mentioning the business of yeshiva, of a school. So he says this yeshiva has an exception. Why? In the Torah, when it comes to halacha, we also have certain behaviors, certain morals that have to go in line with this halacha. First and foremost, we have a ruling. The ruling is that if, let's say for example, there is a toy store already in place in a certain town for a long time, there for a while, and he has a business, and he's making his living, and everybody knows who he is, and you come along, you say, you know what, looks like this guy's doing good. Look, he has this toy store over here already for 20 years. With the money from the toys, he built himself $1 million house. With the money from the toys, he's got 3 cars. With the money from the toys, he's got a $30,000 watch. With the money from the toys, he built a Bet Knesset. He's got so many words. This guy's making a lot of money from toys. What am I going to do? I'm going to open a toy store too. But not only open a toy store, I'm going to open it next door to him. So maybe some of his customers that are not happy with him will come to me. This is not allowed. Not allowed. Why? Go open a toy store somewhere else. Why do you have to open next to him? You are being immoral. You're specifically targeting another Jew. You're specifically targeting another person. It's not good. You're an immoral person. Rasha, actually. Now, it actually says in another place in the Gemara that if somebody calls you a Rasha, but unwarranted, meaning you're not really a Rasha, he just decided that he wants to call you a Rasha for no reason, or unjustified reason, better said, he is a Rasha now. By him calling you a Rasha, when it's unwarranted, he becomes a Rasha. So what does that really mean when he becomes a Rasha? Since he's a Rasha, you are now allowed to open a store next to him, competing directly with his business. Hence, the significance of being a Rasha is not just, in after this life, reward, punishment. No. There's also a certain treatment of how you deal with certain people in this world if they're Rashaim. If a person's a Rasha, you could actually open a competing business next door to him. But of course, you can't be a judge of everything. It has to be relatively obvious if he's a Mechalel Shabbat, if it's someone that specifically violates Torah openly, and it's obvious that he's a Rasha, not just someone that you know, you're the only one in the world that knows he's a Rasha, and everybody else is going to question what you're doing. But the point being is that the Gemara tells us that there are certain businesses that have an exception. Meaning that these businesses have to be treated differently than the rest of businesses. Where if it's a school, the Gemara says there's no competition here. Meaning, no consideration to infringement. Meaning that he has a yeshiva here for 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, doesn't make a difference. You want to open a yeshiva next door to him? Chazak ubol, go for it. Go for it. Why? The Gemara says in Masechet Bava Kama, page 21b, that Rav Yosef says, and Rav Huna himself, one concedes, that with regards to those who teach Torah, Regardless of those who teach Torah to children, but this also teachers of anything. If you're a kiruv organization, if it's a bet midrash, if it's a kollel, same thing. It's not just necessarily teaching children. Anyone that's teaching Torah, a teacher who is established in a particular mavoy, a specific town or area, cannot prevent another from teaching in that mavoy. For the master said, Ezra decreed for the Jewish nation that one teacher should be installed next to the other. Meaning not only you can't stop him, but it's actually a good idea if he opens up right next door to you. Why? There should be a concern that a teacher might become lazy because he has all the students already. It's his town, like the situation that we have actually in Tel Zion in Israel. Our little organization opened up a girls' seminary several days a week in Yerushalayim. We were expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 girls to show up. Now we're, because of Corona, we're getting, obviously there's a shutdown, so we're really doing a lot of programs that are much smaller. But nonetheless, when we were going, we're getting 250, 200 girls. Almost half didn't show up. Why? Because there's one Rasha that has a girls' seminary over there for a really, really long time, and the whole town is scared to death of him. Everyone's scared to death of him. So when he found out that we're opening the place, he came to Rav Alimi and his wife. He said, no, you're not going to open the place. He said, well, it's not up to you if we're going to open. We're going to do what we want. He said, no, I'm going to make sure you don't open. I'm going to cause you problems and this and that. He goes, why? We're teaching Torah. We're not teaching people to smoke crack. What do you care? He goes, no, this is my town. This is my town. Yeah, but we're allowed halachically to open it. In fact, the Torah says otherwise. The Torah says that we should open next door to each other. He didn't like it. Why? He figured that, he wants to rule the land. He thinks that he's God. So Ezra Sofer says sometimes this happens. Sometimes it happens when somebody opens a place, he builds it up, and he doesn't want to let anyone else in. And now you may think, okay, but maybe what if he's a really good teacher? Why should anybody bother him? Well, if he's a good teacher, he shouldn't be bothered. If he's a good teacher, that means that he should be happy that there's more available and more good out there. The only time he's bothered is if he's not a good teacher. If he's become too lax, if he's become too conceited, if he's become, perhaps he's doing certain things that he shouldn't be doing, and so on and so forth. So as Sofer said, actually, it's good for Torah teachers to open up right next door to each other. Why? Keeping up the competition. So much so, kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah. So much so, as Sofer says, that jealousy between scholars increases wisdom in each of the teachers, because they're fearful that their rivals will perform better than them. So in the Torah world, it's actually treated very differently than in other businesses. But believe it or not, this is also in other businesses too. It's not just in the Torah world. It's in other businesses, but it's also another way to learn Mussar, of how the sages thought about everything. One of the businesses is when it comes to cosmetics. Now you would think, wait a minute, why would cosmetics have the same treatment as a yeshiva? Where did you come up with that? Let's look at the Gemara. The Gemara says that at that time, in those days, there used to be people that were dealing with cosmetics in a town for a long time, but there were always all types of peddlers that would come into the town for a short period of time, sell their cosmetics and leave. Ezra Sofer says they're allowed to do it, no problem. Yeah, but I already have my shop over here for 20 years. This guy's coming, his peddler is coming over here, and he's taking business. After he leaves, his friend comes. Why didn't you let all these people come? If they want to do something, let them do it somewhere else. Ezra Sofer, the sages thought about everything. Ezra Sofer said, no, we want these peddlers to come. These cosmetic salesmen, we want them to come into town. Why? Because it's good for Bnot Israel. It's good for the daughters of Israel to have all types of available cosmetics to make them feel good, to make them feel pretty for their husbands, and it improves Shlom Bayit. And when there is Shlom Bayit in a Jewish house, Ish Isha Zachu, Shechina Beneim. When there's Shlom Bayit between the husband and the wife in a Jewish home, the Shechina comes into that house and fixes all wounds, fixes all problems. So if all we need to have Shlom Bayit, there's a few more cosmetics, the newest thing on the block to come into town, it's good. Yeah, what about it's hurting my parnasa? Don't worry, Hashem will send it to you in another way. Hashem will send it to you in another way. So the sages thought about everything. This actually begs the question of why there are certain people that think that a Jewish woman should never use any type of cosmetics, should look like she's like I don't know, homeless or something, and it's not necessarily the case. The point is, it's very important for a woman to be beautiful for her husband. For her husband, when she's in front of her husband, she should be as beautiful as possible. The problem today is that we have many people doing the opposite. For the husband, we look like it's Tisha B'Av, or like they're fasting for a week and a half straight, or maybe they just come out of the Holocaust, something like that. But if they're going to the supermarket, they look like they just came out of a runway show. That's the mistake that we have today. People, the women today many times are looking beautiful in the streets, but at home they look like they have been sleeping for 7 years straight. So again, Chachamim say the cosmetics are good, but remember, it's not cosmetics to go show Steve and Joe, the construction workers down the street, how good you look. This is for your husband.